Hi, welcome to Tikkun's Weekly Dava. This week's portion is Bo. It's the third in the book of Exodus. It talks about the final plagues in Egypt. When God informs Moses about the 10th plague, he says the plague of the firstborn, killing of the firstborn, he says to him it'll happen about midnight. The rabbis ask why say about midnight? Why not say it'll happen at midnight? You know, God knows when something's going to happen, surely. And they explain, Rashi, the great medieval commentator, explains that God was concerned that people wouldn't, they didn't have exact clocks in those days, and it would start at midnight exactly, but someone's clock would be wrong, and would say, oh look, God doesn't know what he's talking about. You know, God's not, it's not God, it's not real, it's not true, because it started at 1 minute past midnight. So he said about midnight. Well, let's just examine what's happening here for a moment, because it doesn't really make much sense. Let's put it in context. Just had these 10 plagues, 10 incredible, miraculous plagues have struck Egypt, one after the other, and each was prophesied, and when Moses said it was going to go away, it went away. And now the final plague, the slaying of the firstborn, is going to happen. It's going to happen in the way Moses said it happened. But because someone doesn't have an atomic clock, and they thought it was 30 seconds late, so now God doesn't exist, can't be, must be something else, must be all natural phenomenon. Doesn't seem to make any sense. I think the answer is something significant about human nature. Is that when somebody doesn't want something to be true, and in this particular case we're talking about God, it doesn't take much to convince us that it's not. We'll kind of look for any excuse will do type thing. And when it comes to God, you know, that's something that people struggle with. I've often heard people say to me, look, you know, how can I know God exists? If he would but split the ceiling open and come down right in front of me now and talk to me directly, then I'd be convinced that he exists. And, you know, we can, firstly, God's not a performing dog. He doesn't do that type of thing. He doesn't just kind of perform at will. But secondly, I'm pretty confident that for that type of person, if God did do that, they still wouldn't be convinced. You know, they'd find some other excuse. Well, I was hallucinating. You did a pretty good trick there, Shaul. You know, you talked me into that. You convinced me. There's be some excuse, some other reason why not. When we don't want something to be true, all the evidence in the world could be in front of us, and we won't see it. And I think when it comes to God's existence, it's something people struggle with. It's something that we're not in a hurry to want to accept, because it means there's consequences to our actions. It means there's certain values that we might have to live by, certain ways of life that might not be as comfortable. Not easy to see, not easy to accept. And when something's not easy to accept, we've got to be so careful with ourselves, because when we lose our objectivity, we kind of find excuses as to why what we want to be true really is. You know, you have all those plagues in Egypt. And for somebody who doesn't want to see God like Pharaoh, or like some of those Egyptians, then half a minute late, because your clock is wrong, will be plenty of reason to not see that it was God, to not believe that it's true. And the same is true for us. You know, when we don't want something to be true, the slightest excuse is always good enough. We've got to be careful with ourselves. We've got to know what appeals to us, what doesn't appeal to us, the things that drive us. And when we are caught in a place of something that we genuinely want to be true, or we genuinely don't want to be true, we've got to be very, very careful and very honest with ourselves that we're not just picking on the little shred of evidence that will convince us that something is the way that we want it to be. Wish you Shabbat Shalom. If you're interested in finding more about Tikkun and what we do, please come to our website, tikkun.co.uk. Thank you.